lovely weather, and then we had a meal together. We were nearly, because there were also partners came with them. It was a Sunday, and we were 35 people.
Okay.
And outside, the distance is here not that you sit, one seat next to you is free, so you are not that close, but so you could sit outside. And in the church, as it was one row left and then 2 people per bench.
How about the service of the food? How did that work?
Hmm?
How about serving of food? How did that work?
Oh, that is fine, because the restaurants are open. And here it is anyway, so that the waiter comes to the table, has a mask on. You don't need outside a mask, but the waiter has a mask on, and they are serving as well with a mask, and they bring the food and the drinks anyway to the tables.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Sounds like you're having a very nice time in Germany.
Yes, and sorry, I have to say I don't want to go back, but I have. I wanted to go Tuesday, but now I go back Sunday. Yeah, to have some more time here.
Okay, great. Thanks for sharing your experience.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I will be staying on after the meeting. I plan to stay online after every meeting when I can, just to take any questions or just speak to Rotarians if they need to talk to me about anything. So if you'd like to, then you're welcome to. I'm speaking to Simon and Moira hopefully today after the call. But anybody else wants to hang around, you're welcome to. Okay, any notices from the Secretary, Barry?
Yes, I on behalf of our Treasurer, he's asked me to invite any of you who haven't paid your subscriptions. Can't imagine there's anybody present today, but if you haven't, would you please pay your subscription? There's 12 guilty people, but I don't know who they are.
Very discreet.
Do you want to just remind us of the amount, Barry?
£150 sterling.
Okay, thank you. Right, any notices from committee chairman? No? Okay, so should we move on to the speaker? Yes? Okay, Mukhtar? Yeah, he's here with us, so Mukhtar Mohammed. Is it Mahmoud or Mohammed?
It's Mohammed, yeah, it looks the same.
Okay. Okay, and the reason I thought Mukhtar would be a really good speaker was he's running a Leicester-based technology business. He has a very interesting history being involved in various technological startups. And it's businesses like his that are going to be innovating their way through the challenging circumstances many businesses find themselves in currently. So I thought it'd be nice to get his perspective on the technological revolution taking place in Leicester and what businesses like his are up to. So take it away, Mukhtar.
Thank you very much, Famdeep. I'm just going to quickly see if I could share my screen. It says the host disabled it, so if you could give me access to share my screen.
Okay, let me just, if you can just, okay, all participants, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that right now?
Perfect, yeah, there we go. So I titled the talk, My Startup COVID-19 and I thought it was quite relevant, especially with the times where how things are changing so much at the moment. And it's affected us quite heavily as well with the company that I founded called Newny. So Newny is an audience engagement and community platform. But before I get into it, first of all, I want to thank you, Palm Deep and the extended Rotary Club cohort for the opportunity to talk today. I'm just going to quickly talk about my journey overall and how COVID-19 has impacted me and a little bit about my background as well. So yeah, so who am I? So my name is Mukhtar Mahmood. I'm the co-founder of Newny. It's an audience engagement and community platform focused on helping social first organizations. I was born in Denmark in the coastal city of Aarhus, and I came to Leicester when I was 5 years old with my family. I'm originally from Somalia, the East African country. I studied cybersecurity at De Montfort University. I've always been interested in technology and the overall infrastructure around software products and what makes a software product robust and secure. I tried to apply my interest and methodology to my current startup. And so why entrepreneurship? I know this slide might look a bit confusing here. Why is Rupert Murdoch on here? But it'll make sense. As a young student in secondary school, I did the classic selling sweets during break and lunch, and things like that. But the very moment that I realized that entrepreneurship and business can become a career path was during a family trip to Kenya in Nairobi. And I have quite a few family there. And I remember specifically one evening when we sat down to discuss the purchase of some land. And we were brainstorming different ways we could maximize, the usage of the space. Do we, build one apartment there, a block of apartments or a house, or how could you maximize your return on the land? And that was really eye-opening to me as a young person, because I thought to myself, wait, this is an actual thing that people do in such large scales. And then it's the sort of the world opened up to me, and I started thinking, okay, there's a real opportunity here to try different things instead of the normal, working on a standard job. And the reason why Rupert Murdoch is on here is because I'm not sure if you guys all remember, but around 2012, the News of the World inquiry with Rupert Murdoch around the phone hacking. It's a bizarre topic to find inspiration from, but I remember specifically one time where Rupert Murdoch was supposed to come to a hearing, but instead of coming to the hearing, he took his private jet and ran off to New York. But the thing isn't the fact that he, broke the law by not coming to the hearing, but it's the fact that he had the freedom to just get up on a plane and leave. And I thought to myself, wait, if you had a job, you couldn't just get up and leave, and go somewhere else. And I thought to myself, this is really, I'd love to have that level of freedom. Not saying I'm going to run away, but if I could have the opportunity to travel whenever I pleased. And the business card that you see over here is my first attempt when I was 15 years old. A little company that we started called List Me Leicester with a few friends. It's a Yellow Pages website for local businesses and their deals in Leicester. And we did a few advertising. We had a couple businesses on there, but it was the first real attempt to actually start something that I manifested in my head and thought, okay, let's bring this thing to life with a few friends. I learned so much. The website is somewhere still live from 2013, but it was a real eye-opening time, because I thought to myself, starting a company, a technology company, the only reason why I went through to technology was because the cost of starting a tech company was really low compared to other businesses. And I thought I could do this with the laptop that I have at home, my family laptop. I could just quickly put something together. It didn't cost us anything to put this thing together, but we could, we started making, I think we made like £3 or £4 from advertising on there. It wasn't a lot, but it was a great eye-opening experience. So here's two other attempts. So this is a company called Sketho. So Sketho stands for Small Companies Expanding Their Horizon Online. It's a coupon website that curated discounts from local stores in the area, around Leicester as well. In order to unlock the coupon, you had to share it with your friends on Facebook or Twitter, and this way, local businesses know that each time you come into the store to take the coupon on, they know that their company was advertised a little bit on social media. And so the concept of the idea was good, but it's just the execution of us wasn't great. So we lacked the experience for marketing and sales and things like that. But the experience that I learned from doing Sketho I was able to implement into the next company, which is Complex. And so complex.co, it doesn't really stand for anything. It's just the word complex. We just removed the E because we couldn't get the domain name. But it's a web development agency that I ran with a friend of mine. I took the experiences and the knowledge that I learned from doing Sketho, and I applied it to this web development agency. It was successful. This was around 2017. We grew it to about 3 or 4 websites that we were doing. And this was until I received the opportunity to work at a Kickstarter company that I'll go into a little bit more. But on the complex side, it's still going today, and my friend, the friend that I started it with, continued growing the company, and now he's got about 5 employees that work for him, and he's grown the agency to quite a reasonable size. And so he's great. That's probably the first company that I was involved in that successfully grew to a certain size, a sustainable size. But the company that I left to join was Apption Labs. Apption Labs is the founder of Meter. Meter.com. Meter.com is they're the founders of the first ever wireless meat thermometer. And so you put it in the meat, as you can see in the image there. You put it in the meat, you put it in the oven, and the app will tell you when the meat is done. And so you can then take it out. It tells you when to leave it there for resting, and then when it's safe to consume as well. So it's quite innovative in the way they did it. They raised about £1.5 million in Kickstarter funding. And it was just by luck that they were based in Leicester, because the founders were originally based in LA. Some of the founders were in LA, others were from Finland, but they were all based in Silicon Valley and LA area. But they only came here because one of the founders started a PhD course at De Montfort University. And so they based the technical HQ here in Leicester. And so that gave, opened up the opportunity for students in Leicester to join the company. And I was one of the first 3 students that joined. And I saw the company grow from about 12 to 15 employees all the way up to 25 to 30. And so that experience was quite tremendous as well, because I was able to see how the concept was developed and changed and adapted over time before they launched it. And then when they launched it, I saw the exponential growth that they experienced because of their backing from Kickstarter. And it was a huge experience. When I left university, I continued working with them for about 6 months until the company started growing. And so when a company grows and the roles mature and they become more and more defined, I found myself working as the company's sole quality assurance and hardware engineer, even though my background was in cybersecurity. So I was testing the product, and I was coordinating with the team based in Taiwan where they produce the products. But my internal desire was always to start my own tech company and to try something out. And I thought to myself, now there's no better time than now, because I was still at home. I'm still at home, and I thought, let me take advantage of the low costs that I have right now and really go out there and try something new. And so that's when I had the inspiration for Newny. And so the original inspiration came from, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the note app called Evernote. And so on Evernote, I just jot down any idea that I come by. If I find an inspiration or I find something that I want to research later on, I just quickly jot it down on my phone. And while I was working at Apption Labs, I was in a conversation with one of my colleagues, and this came up. The whole education sector came up, and the reason there was a lot of communication errors while I was studying at De Montfort University. We saw a lot of communication errors between the lecturers and the students. And then we found that sometimes when the student doesn't understand the topic, they're too afraid to put their hand up in front of 250 other students in the lecture room. And so I thought to myself, what could we do to actually make that experience a little easier? And how can we open up students to be able to ask questions without fear of any, reputational damage or any sort of anxiety or anything like that. And so I started working closely once I left university. I started working closely with the lecturers to try and develop a solution for this. I don't have a tech background. I have a tech background, but I don't have coding background. And so I had a friend of mine that we met online. There's a forum called indiehackers.com. And on this forum, you find different people with different aspects of technology. Some are really hardcore developers. Other people are business-oriented people, and they come together on this forum to, jot ideas down and brainstorm, get feedback on little ideas and projects that they're working on. And so I met my friend on there. And David is my technical co-founder for Newny, and he's a full stack developer. He's got about 5 years experience, and we work remotely. He's based in Europe, in Slovenia, in Ljubljana or Maribor, I believe, around that region. And he works for a development agency down there, and he's got quite a few years under his belt in developing, high scalable projects. And so, when we developed the interactivity tool for the lecturers to use, we found that there's a lot of bureaucracy working with universities, and things are really slow and things sort of drag out. And then, while we were trying to get this thing to start up, we were given the opportunity to work with TEDx Leicester. And so I had a friend of mine that I used to go to school with who introduced me to the team. She was the partnership manager there. And so we got the opportunity to test the product, test the solution out with 150 attendees and 9 different speakers. It was quite nerve-wracking because we thought, okay, yes, we're in the setting of a lecture-like setting with the audience, and you have the speakers there. But the product, we only, even though we were developing it for quite a while, we only really got into the development about 3 or 4 weeks before the event actually started. And so it was quite risky to do this, especially with the weak Wi-Fi in venues. They don't really have that really strong Wi-Fi. But even though we had all of those issues, it went through really successful there. And the speakers started coming up to us and telling us this was great. They want to use it at their conferences that they speak at. And then we realized, okay, there might be an opportunity here. And then we thought to ourselves, okay, how about if we pivot our attention? The core problem is still there. The audience, giving the audience the ability to ask questions and interact, and of course giving the event organizers now the ability to make their events a little bit more interactive. And so we thought to ourselves, okay, this is a great opportunity and a new beginning for us to really focus on this. And so we started working on it and developing it and refining it. We worked with a few other we started realizing we work with a lot of social first organizations. These are organizations that do things with, sustainability, environmental causes, social impact causes, and things like that. And so we started working closely with them. And then while we were developing the product and we were working on, creating the perfect product to really maximize the value that we can get out of these events and workshops that we work with, Mr. COVID-19 decided to show up and really throw things off. But when COVID-19 decided to enter, it really threw us off because we didn't really look at creating a video conferencing platform like Skype or Zoom. We thought to ourselves, we want to take the best things that you can get from technology and bring it to an offline environment, because we believe that offline is always where you can create the best connections and have the greatest experience. Technology can never really replace that. And so it really forced us to reevaluate our offering, especially since we were so focused on the physical aspect of the events. But I feel like, looking back at it in retrospect, it was a really good thing for us because it really strengthened the product. And so there's a saying online where it says you should develop painkillers, not vitamins. And so we had to realign our product to become painkillers and not a vitamin for our target audience. And so it comes down to, what does Newny really do today? So after looking at what our competitors were doing, what our beta users were telling us, and we decided to change things, optimize a few features, work to make sure that it worked in the online arena. We then realized that our product was still very strong in this environment. And we also found that the target audience became susceptible to change, which was great for us as well. And they were open to adopting new technology as well, especially with the problem was a lot of people started going for let's just go on Zoom, let's just jump on Zoom, without realizing, okay, is this still a great experience for us? Is it still, showing, is it still optimizing the experiences for the attendees? And so we had to really make sure that the product, our beta users really understood that. And so we started working closely with them. And then we ended up developing this version of the product. I'm just going to quickly show you now. I'm going to quickly change my screen to give you guys a quick demo of what Newny is all about and what it looks like today. So let me just quickly stop sharing. Let's see here. Yeah, so this is our landing page. Let me just quickly go to, so what we call here is, let me quickly log out of this. So this is what we call a realm. And so each organization that we work with, like a Leicester co-working hub, is a similar organization to the Rotary Club, but they're more focused on freelancers, consultants, and self-employed people. They come together on a more social first basis, instead of where normal networking organizations, they mainly focus on, how can I benefit from you and how can you benefit from me? But this one is more like, let's become friends first and discuss things that are not, directly, related to our businesses. But then that surprisingly creates a really closer environment, with each other. So I really like the way they go about doing things. So they're one of our beta users, and this is a realm. So a realm basically means their own ecosystem inside Newny, and so each organization has their own ecosystem. So the link to them would be coworkinghub.newny.io. So let me just quickly log in. Yeah. So yeah, so this, what you see in front of you here is the the community side. And so on here, they jot down ideas and discussions that they've had during their meetings, or resources or articles that they want to share. And so they've been using this consistently now for about 5 weeks. And so you can see here, each time there's a new person who's running the mastermind session or the weekly meeting, and they come here, they jot down ideas and that they want to discuss, and then the members start commenting here, you know, other ideas that they want to share or things that they want to add, and things of that nature. And then there's a link over here that takes them straight to the Zoom call or the Google Meet call that they have. And so they use this as a way just to sort of document their progress, document the conversations that they've had over time. And so what I'll show you now is the actual event space, the interactivity side. And so on here is once there's an event that's live, there's a button that comes across here that says ask a question. You click the button, you ask your question. It's all anonymous, and we made it anonymous just to remove any sort of fear that someone asking the question might have, and so you can just openly ask questions without fearing any sort of repercussion. And other attendees that are watching or listening, if they like the question, they can upvote it as well. And so what we created to make it, you know, feasible in the online world, we've created this presentation mode here. And so on this presentation mode, once you click it, it sort of creates a nice little a page over here where you can share all the questions. And so say I'm hosting the session today, for example, and there's a question that's been upvoted the most, it goes to the top. I can highlight it, discuss the question, see what everybody thinks about it. You know, maybe it's a panel discussion. We talk about it, we brainstorm the question. Once we finish discussing it, I can just click the tick button over here and the question disappears. And so that's the main features, I would say, for the application. We're still developing. We're still working on developing the analytics side, so you can actually turn these data that you're collecting into useful insights that you can use for future events. And so that's the whole point of it. It's not just to have great events and great conversations, but what can we do with this information that we've collected? And you can imagine that in a social environment where we're talking about sustainability, we're talking about real change and impact, but then we all ooh-ha during the event, but then afterwards nothing happens, the conversations are gone, you know, the ideas are gone. But what we want to do is we want to capture all of those conversations and all of that information and create a place where you can always tap into, look back at all the other information that you've shared and engage with. And so that's the product, the way it stands today. So let me just quickly go back to my slides. Yes, so what we did is once we developed the product and the way the product was today, what we thought to ourselves now was, how can we show this to people? How can we make them understand the value that we're providing? And we thought the best thing to do is to create an event ourselves. And so we came up with a sub-brand called Backstage. It's a play on the word with, you know, when you're at an event, you have a backstage area as well. And so we thought, let's create a backstage where we can invite other event organizers and other community leaders to engage with the platform, but to engage in a more indirect way. And so we started creating a webinar earlier this month where we talked about, you know, what the events industry is going to look like in the next couple of years, because, you know, it's completely turned upside down on its head. And so we garnered a lot of interest, and they started engaging with the product, and lots of people started, you know, realizing the benefit of the product itself. And so we were able to generate some interest that way. And so now, you know, looking forward on how the journey has been so far, it's been difficult. It hasn't been over. You know, it hasn't been easy at all. But over time, we've managed to refine our understanding of our product, what the company mission is. We realized that our service was important as a social impact element to it. And we've decided to mainly focus and work with social first organizations, because that's where we felt we had the most sort of impact with the product. And so if I put Newny in a nutshell, the way that I like to describe it is we look at events as though they're projects. And when events are run correctly, they're known to generate great ideas and spark interesting conversations. However, more often than not, these conversations and ideas die out and are largely forgotten about. But with Newny, we want to capture it all and sort of create a single point of reference for all events pertaining to an organization. So using the historical data that's collected from all the previous events on Newny, event organizers can build on these ideas and conversations to elevate the quality, the content, and the deliverability of their events. And that way, you know, it's sort of run like a well-oiled and well-maintained project. And so that's Newny and the journey so far in a nutshell. So thank you very much, everybody, for listening. I hope I haven't gone too fast, because I felt like I've been talking too fast.
No, thank you for that very much, and thanks for keeping it not too technical either, because I think your language was very suited to us, and I think most of us understood how what you do works. I suppose one question I have is we're very much have gone from the offline world of our meetings and have gone towards this online format, which I'm sure many other event companies and organizations that you work with have also done. How do you see the future? Do you think there's going to be a hybrid model in the future where people are going to retain the online side like we've got here, but also have physical meetings and try and join the two? And if so, how does that work?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great point, because looking at the organizations that we're working with now, for example, there's a project that we're hoping to start with the City Council here in Leicester, where they have this initiative called the Community Solutions Program, where they're going out and they're talking to different communities around Leicester, and they're trying to figure out, okay, how can we survive in post-COVID-19 world? What's that going to look like with different communities around Leicester? And so we're hoping to facilitate that conversation in a hybrid manner, where the people that aren't so technically adept can come to the physical event and still participate on the platform, but they're also going to, have an online side where everybody else can watch as well. And so I think that's, even with the event that we had earlier this month with all the event organizers, from the panels, the people that were on the panel, the event experts, they were saying 12 months to 18 months is going to be a sort of hybrid model where you have a restricted number of people in the physical world, maybe just to ensure that we can enforce the social distancing, make sure that people that are there are people that aren't, easily don't have, access to online tools and things like that. And also creating a solution where you can sort of harmonize the two platforms, the offline people and the online platform could still harmonize and have a single point where they could interact with the event and the content. Because what's important is, if we're going for a hybrid model, we have to still ensure that the quality of the event is still high, and just to make sure that it's still, controlled. Because if you have an offline and an online, it could become sort of disconnected from each other. So the question is, how can you connect the offline and the online to create a solution that's, that'll take us through this period that we're going to see in the next couple of months' time.
Yeah, great, thank you. Any questions from the group? You just need to unmute yourself.
Please, if I may do, President.
Go ahead, Paul.
Just a quick question. How do you make money out of this?
Good question. The way we make money is that we're hoping we've put forward a subscription model. So right now it costs about £50 to use the model. And so we've done it in that way because we're not just facilitating that one event, because each event is building up on the previous events. And so to have the community side and to engage everybody, we thought the best sort of business model to go for is the subscription model, to make sure that we can work together on a longer period of time, because we feel like the longer we work together, the more value they find in the product. And so the more cost effective it becomes over time, and the more, the greater ROI they see over time. Because you can imagine, if you're running a project like the one we're hopefully going to do with the City Council, you can imagine over a year's time to look back at what the discussions we were having now during COVID-19, and then what fruits it bore, in a year's time. And so we thought the best way to do that is to work together on a sort of a long period of time with a subscription model.
Yes, Nick, go ahead.
A quick question. I'm just trying to imagine how this works, and I'm afraid my mind is not quite as fast as younger people's, perhaps. But if you've got a lot of people in a room and they're asking their questions on your system, the speakers presumably in the room will be responding verbally. How do you capture that information?
So the response, you mean?
Yes.
Yes, the response. We don't really have a way to capture the response at all. But usually, when the events that we work with, they have it recorded, and so you use it as a supplement to the recording. So, for example, this event is recorded. Any response would be recorded as well, and the questions are there with them, so you can follow along the questions and the response as well,
Okay.
later on.
Right. I could see that there's perhaps an opportunity for some sort of voice recognition
Oh yes.
direct feed into the system.
Definitely. There's this quite exciting things you could do with it, and one thing we're hopefully going to implement in we'll see where it goes in about a year's time, but we want to implement a sort of a machine learning system where it recommends questions, because we found the problem isn't asking the question, problem is coming up with a question sometimes. So we want to figure out how can we help people come up with interesting questions. And so using, you know, the data that we collect and the anonymized information that we have, how can we feed that and categorize that into topics? So for example, if we're talking about, I don't know, golf, for example, and there's certain titles and we've got previous events in our backlog of people discussing this topic, then we can give the end users, we can recommend them questions that they can ask, the way Google recommends you search queries. So before you finish writing the query on Google, it already tells you the question that you might have in your mind. So we want to sort of implement the same thing, but for questions, to say, oh, this is a great question. So that way it solves the age-old problem of how can we get people to ask more questions and engage more. And so we want to help people with that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have time for one more. Yes, John.
Mukta, could I just ask you a more general question? I noticed on one of your excellent visuals, I don't know who does them for you, but they were very good.
Thank you.
A reference to TikTok and to China. And I'm very interested in the false news element of this, and in particular, the exploitation of young people. Do you have any views on that and how it might be controlled?
That's a very good question. Yeah, the image I used, I think it was like a random Google picture that I found for the slides. But it's a very important topic and very relevant, because at the moment, with the whole US saying that they might ban, you know, TikTok and the information, and the whole Hawaii situation here with the 5G, it's a trust question, isn't it? So how can we trust a government that's like an organization that's not really trustworthy, or they're not really transparent, or they don't have the Western values that we do here? And so how can we do that with the youth? So the problem is we can't control innovation, if that makes sense. So it's like, if they're innovating more than we are here, it's very difficult to sort of combat that and stop innovation, because innovation has sort of it's like, you know, it's on its own path, you know, and so I think the only way we'd probably be able to survive, you know, in that scenario, was to create our own versions of things. So how can we create things that is as inevitable and as inevitable as other products? And so, for example, it sort of reminds me of the space wars of the 60s, where you had the US versus the Russians, who's going to be first man to space. So it's sort of like in a different scenario where we're thinking about who's the first one to capturing the youth and the attention from youth. You had the Snapchat versus TikTok. But the thing is, it's a very difficult one, I'd say, at the moment, and especially with the whole fake news and the Twitter thing happening, with platforms like Facebook and Twitter, before they started coming in and they started blocking tweets from what's his name, Mr. Trump, for example, and they started labeling tweets saying this is this is a fake news, or there's some, you know, rough elements here. But the thing is, what's sort of the path between, oh, I'm a platform and I'm not controlling the content that's flowing through my platform, versus, you know, I have to police this platform, and then now I'm taking the role of a government. So I've seen that problem with YouTube as well, where, you know, they're taking down certain things because they claim this is harassment, this isn't harassment, but it's such a gray area. I think that's the biggest problem that we probably might face ourselves, where it's like, oh, you're facilitating, you know, a discussion for some extremely right-wing Russian group, for example, might be using our platform to host their events and spread their ideology. But it's like, what can we do as a platform to police that? Should we be policing that, or should we, you know, stay neutral and say, you know what, we're providing the platform for other people to have certain conversations? So it's a difficult thing that I think is going to be hard to facilitate. But at the moment, I think the best thing for platforms to do is to stay neutral, but to provide more information. So it's like, yeah, this might be fake news, but they need to surface more reliable content from reliable resources. And then it has to come from the person themselves to say, okay, I'm going to take, you know, the safe route. I'm going to take the factual route versus the route that I can't prove. So it's quite a difficult task ahead of us.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Well, the world was a lot simpler when we only had 3 TV channels, I suppose. Yeah, it's a much more complicated world out there.
Yeah.
So thank you very much. If you could all just unmute yourselves. I can't seem to do it on here. I can mute you all, but I can't unmute you. So if you could do that, that'd be great. And I just want to say thank you to Mukhtar. Given your cybersecurity background, it'd be really good maybe to have you back later on some other time and talk about that, because that's a subject I think many people are pretty ignorant of, right? And it's very important.
Definitely, yeah, I'll be happy to. Yes, I feel like it's going to become more and more relevant as time goes on, especially with the election coming up soon.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so thank you for that, and all the best with your business. Attendance today is 24, slightly below the normal. I guess that's a reflection of the weather, and who knows what people are up to today, but I hope they're all well, and look forward to seeing them all back next week. Next week we have Riaz Rabat, who will be talking to us about the St. Philip Centre, and his talk is titled Past, Present and Future. There is a couple of meetings I'm holding today after this call with Simon and Moira, but you're all welcome to hang around, and if you have any questions or comments for me, please do so. And at this point, this meeting stands adjourned, and I look forward to seeing you all next week.
President, just before you finish, could I just ask for a view from Richard in terms of what's going on in terms of COVID, as far as lockdown or unlockdown, or how he sees it, please?
Go ahead, Richard.
I'm afraid I'm slightly feel as though I'm wandering around in Wonderland at the moment. I'm just bald numbers. In the last week up till Friday, in the hospital itself, the number of inpatients with COVID fell by 20%, and there were 6 deaths which we registered over 1 week. So that's less than 1 a day. So there's a bit of a disconnect between what is being reported by the government and what's actually happening within the hospital. The focus seems to have shifted very much from people dying or people being in hospital from COVID to number of positive swabbing cases, and that now seems to be what is being used as the benchmark. But I'm afraid it's all a mystery to me. I'm at a complete loss as to the whole mask business. I'm a complete loss as to the whole lockdown business. So I'm afraid that's all I can add to you is just the facts. And as to the politics, everything else, it's beyond.
That must give us all a great deal of confidence that if you as the
well, you take confidence that people aren't actually getting ill, which is the most important.
Well, what I was going to say, Richard, if that is how you see it as far as a health professional, then it gives me a great deal of confidence to think that politicians are so much in control of it that we're still in this lockdown situation. I just find it amazing.
Yeah, well, there we go.
You should do the government briefing, Richard.
Yeah.
As long as he starts by saying he's in Wonderland, that would be ideal, Barry. Yes.
Right.
Well, that's great. Thank you, everybody, and we'll see you all next week.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, Simon, shall we kick off with this discussion of the
golf? Yes.
Yes.
As you know, we lost the ability to play because of COVID this year. So I think it's perhaps 2 or 3 years since the last golf event run by the club itself for local people, essentially. We generally tend to have it in June on a Wednesday. That's been popular in the past. The one thing we have to try and do, because the captain of the golf club also has fundraising events, is not to have the two events too close together. So that'll be one of the things to check, but certainly at the moment the club diary is free for the 2 Wednesdays in June 2021, and we ought to reserve one or other of those, was really the point that I was putting to you.
Yes, okay, great. Well, let's pick one. I guess you're better positioned than me to know which would be more suitable for the.
Well, I think we'll do the one closest to the 21st, which from memory was something like the 23rd. The part of the reason was to ask you whether you got anything else on around that time that might have clashed with it. But if your diary is reasonably free, then I think we'll just check that the club's diary is still free, and I'll just have a look at what that date actually is so we can put it in the diary. Let's just have a look at my diary. And
well, I'm definitely free, so
yeah, right. Well, it won't take me a minute just to find out where we are.
I think it is the 23rd. Yeah, that one.
Yes, yeah, 23rd. So we'll go for the 23rd. I'll have a quick discussion with the club. There is a change of general manager happening, but as long as we reserve the date, we can do the negotiations over price and everything else later on. But it's a well-trodden path. We're used to running these events, so and there's always people who are prepared to help.
Great. So it's a one-day event, is it?
It's a one-day event. Yeah, it is indeed. Usually with a meal afterwards on a running buffet basis, rather than a big event, everybody waiting to the end.
Great, sounds good. Maybe if you can confirm with the club that the date's available, come back to me and we'll talk further, and yeah. I'll figure out from there what we need to do.
Okay, that's fine.
Great, good to speak to you, Simon.
Okay, thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you, take care.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, Moira, should we cover the youth projects?
Or do you just want to know which ones we're hoping to do?
I'd love to know if there are any we can do this year. Are there any that we can continue with this year, given the lockdown?
Of course there are. Of course there are. Have you not read our brochure?
No, I haven't. you have to send it to me.
Right. We shall be doing young writer, young photographer, young artist. Hopefully we'll be doing the tech tournament. I mean, I don't actually run that, but it comes under me. Hopefully we'll be doing Ryla next year. Hopefully we'll be doing Kids Out.
Yeah.
Not sure about Calvert. I am trying to find out a bit more about young environmentalists, because I had a school who was interested last year, and I'm hoping that they will continue. And to that end, we've got a meeting on Thursday of this week, on Zoom, of course, to talk about young environmentalists. There is a new one for junior schools called Young Scientist, which I might just try and find a pilot school to try that out.
Great.
And possibly something on the promoting peace education. That would just, it's not a competition. It's just something that the club could do with school people. You know, we could perhaps have our own competition and give a prize for the best thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any dates for any of those at this point?
Absolutely not. Got to get the schools back first.
Yeah, that was always my kind of concern around. So, okay, so we're going
to look at everything in September, because the big thing is, will the schools want to take part, or have they got, you know, too big a backlog to, you know, to not want to do anything outside? I mean, I know that young writer isn't a problem because they just do that as a piece of homework, if you like, and young artist and young photographer won't be problems, but we'll just have to see how it goes, and we can't really tell until the schools have gone back.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point, because I'm just doing my newsletter update, my inaugural newsletter piece for the August newsletter. Should I mention that we're going to go ahead with young photographer, young artists, potentially the tech tournament?
Young writer, young photographer, young artist.
Yeah.
The tech tournament, Ryla, kids out, and there may be a few extra things as well.
Okay. Who's in charge of the tech tournament this year?
Well, I'm presuming that Nick and the same people who did it last year. Can't think of his name.
Wasn't Derek?
No. Got me thing to hand.
Don't worry, I'll find out. I'll contact Nick.
Yes. Who? Oh dear me.
I don't remember.
Brain dead. But they will run it, and I'm sure they will be running it again. That's usually February.
Okay. Great. Okay, that's all I needed to know for now. And I'll wait to hear back from September then, once you've got a bit more information on what the schools want to do.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right.
Speak to you soon.
Yep.
Bye.
Cheery ho.